My name is Kukuletu and I'm traveling the African continent in search of up-and-coming entrepreneurs who are making an impact in their own communities. This is Profit with Purpose. This is what giving back is all about. This is Chivas Win the Right Way. Iyinoluwa Aboyeji has been part of many successful businesses, all at the tender age of 26. He's even secured funding from Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. He first founded Bookneto, an online learning platform, while studying in Canada. It was later acquired by the Canadian Innovation Centre, which led to his return to Nigeria, his country of birth. Welcome to Chivas The Venture, where we're in conversation with our entrepreneur here in Lagos, Nigeria, Iyinoluwa Aboyeji. I tried.
You did.
Help me again with the correct pronunciation.
You got really close. Iyinoluwa Aboyeji.
Aboyeji, there we go. But good to have you with us as the co-founder and CEO of Flutterwave. You started your first entity at the age of 19, managed to develop at least 3 or 4 more companies after that. And today we see you having established Flutterwave with a few other colleagues in the industry.
Of course.
Let's start with entrepreneurship. Do you believe that you were born as an entrepreneur or taught to be one?
But I think what drew me back into entrepreneurship was really seeing the power of technology itself to be able to transform people's lives and to give anybody the tools to be able to build a future. One of the most defining experiences for me was, I think at this time I was about 14 or 15, so this was 2005, and a number of colleagues of mine passed away in a plane crash. Sosoliso plane crash. And so I think for me that was a fundamental shift, because prior to that time, I mean, I never saw the broader society as having any impact on my life. That incident basically pierced our reality, and then we started to see that everything was connected. And I would argue for me that was kind of the beginning of just, advocating around higher airline safety standards after the crash, where things started to shift to the power of private sector and entrepreneurship was sometime about 1 year into school. First of all, I'd gone to the UN and come back very dissatisfied with the way things worked there.
Too much structure, too much control.
Yes, there was a lot of structure, a lot of control, and the advocacy work we're trying to do was a lot of politics, and things took a long time. And so I'd become very disillusioned by that. And I had a very interesting experience. I had a friend who, funnily enough, I had met on the first day of orientation when I was in university. His name was Pierre. And really the way we met was he literally just tapped me on the back and was like, "Hey, can I stay at yours tonight?" And I was like, "Dude, man, I just met you." Like,
I don't know you like that. Yeah.
But I was like, "Yeah, cool, no problems," because I mean it's orientation day. He can, he probably wasn't a serial killer, and he wasn't. and so we became friends. But my school used to run something called the Cooperative Education Program. So you never really had friends for long periods of time, because every 3 months folks would like split up and go around the world working for large companies. I went to work in New York at the UN, and my friend went over to Silicon Valley. So 1 year later, we just meet up in the cafeteria by accident, because I'd obviously lost touch and he had too. And he was telling me about his experience in Silicon Valley, and I was very drawn to this experience. And also about the same time, Social Network came out, so it was very good timing, and we started becoming drawn to this. And then my school had a program called the Velocity Program, which was basically an entrepreneurship residence for the purposes of basically building entrepreneurs who were in school. So this was not for you after school, you were in school and you could be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And so I tapped into that program along with Pierre. That was when we started Bookneto. And that was kind of my slow, gradual journey into becoming a full tech entrepreneur, basically.
Where did the inspiration come by back in 2017, where Flutterwave became the next brainchild?
At that time, I was at Andela, and we're building basically engineering talent for the continent and beyond at Andela. One thing that became very clear to me was that there was a clear opportunity, which was digital transformation. A lot of businesses were thinking about technology as a way to scale their businesses, but the most significant interaction between a business and their customers' payments, and that wasn't online yet. That wasn't something that was done digitally for the most part. And so I continued to borrow deep. and try and understand what the problems were, what the value chain is, what needed to be solved. And I amassed a lot of payments, made a number of investments in the payment space, and I just continued to study for a while. One thing that became very clear to me, and I think was really kind of my move, was basically, you know, there was definitely at this point, you know, you have a Mark Zuckerberg looking at investing in Andela.
How did that come about, by the way?
I think we're reading an article in the Wall Street Journal about, you know, could the next Mark Zuckerberg be in Nigeria? Or be in Africa, and I think that kind of got to him, and the conversation started there. I always thought to myself, you know, what would it take for you to be able to build a company like Facebook from Nigeria? Today, that's not possible. That's, you know, the honest truth is we had to go and incorporate Andela and even Flutterwave in the US to even have the scale that we do today. Just because beyond the capital not being available, there's just the continent is not globally connected and trusted, and there needed to be a platform for that ability for Africans to be able to build global businesses and connect to the global economy.
You're also trying to make this a pan-African initiative. I understand that you facilitate payments between Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa, among other African states. How critical is that for you, and how does it tie back into the ethos of shared success for yourself as an entrepreneur and the entity that you represent?
One of the key challenges was basically the business model around electronic payments. And we said, hey, look, you know, we know you're investing tons of your balance sheet into technology because you understand this is the future of your business. But sometimes, you know, because the technology provider is not aligned, you're not seeing the return. And so we said, look, we're going to come in and partner with you to build these things. However, we only make money when you make money, right? And that's really what ties into the ethos of shared prosperity. Ultimately, the way we make money is we share revenue with you. And that gives you the security that we're completely aligned with you.
Why is that important to you, and how do you make sure that those that you surround yourself with also buy into the shared prosperity?
For me, it's because I know that's the only way to be successful. There's a lot of companies that come into the ecosystem, and their idea of building the future is disruption. And we don't like that word.
As a tech company?
Yeah, we don't use that word. We don't like that word. It's a banned word. You actually have to put money in a swear jar for saying disruption in our office.
So if you're not a disruptor, then how do you describe yourself?
We are builders. We work with you to build. And that's why you see a lot of our clients are very large enterprise companies. The kind of companies that your typical startup makes it their goal to disrupt.
Exactly.
And our job is to come in and say, no, there's no need for disruption. We can come in and help you build new value, right, into your business and help you reach a whole set of customers you never thought it was possible for us to reach.
How do you make sure that in this world that is ever evolving, you remain sustainable and relevant to the market that you want to serve?
I think with every new thing, it's a tool, right? And ultimately, it's on organizations that are forward-thinking and innovative, which is another one of our core values, right? To leverage these tools to be able to solve problems for themselves. And when you think about our company, even from where we start, why do we exist, right? We exist because there are certain changes that will happen in the payments world from the point of view of the infrastructure setup that we're taking advantage of so that we can actually drive competitive value for our customers and help them to do the same things cheaper. I think blockchain comes from that. We're trying to understand where it's going. We got a traditional business, which is really supporting businesses and banks to build seamless and secure payment experiences for their customers. And if blockchain becomes part of those, makes those experiences secure and seamless, we'll definitely want to incorporate it into our solution.
Tell us what actually happens here at the mothership in the HQ of Flutterwave.
What we do here for the most part is really all our teams come together here to serve Nigeria, which is one of our biggest markets, and also to provide a landing base for our expansion efforts into other African countries. Flutterwave is primarily an engineering company, so over 33% of all our staff are software engineers or product people. So it's kind of very different from like your bank. So imagine if you took out the technology division of your bank and just plunked it into a really colorful space. Like that's what this would look like.
So essentially you guys really support and form the backbone of the operations that financial systems actually work on.
We've kind of figured out a sweet spot around here about how do you build payment systems that are seamless and secure, which is the tension we deal with every day. So on the seamless side, people want to be able to walk into a grocery store and not talk to anybody and just walk out with goods and then they just pay. They want it to be like an Uber experience. On the other side, we got to make sure you're the one who's walking into that grocery store, right? Not somebody who just wants to use your credit card.
How challenging is that, though, given the ongoing regulatory issues that you need to battle with? I mean, Nigeria is well known for having quite a few banks and financial services solutions within this market. But from a Pan-African perspective, where you're dealing with different geographies, with different dynamics and different regulations, that must add to your headaches as well.
A little bit. But you see, one of the things that you find actually in Africa is that we're a lot more connected than the statistics suggest. Let me put it that way. So, I mean, just a broad analysis of banks across Africa, there are about 5,000 of them, right, including MFBs and so on and so forth, right? And out of those 5,000, there are probably about 500 of them that really matter, right? And out of those 500, what you find is 350 out of 500 banks in Africa, which have assets over $1 million, belong to banking groups. Right? So they belong to Citibank Group, they belong to Standard Bank Group, they belong to GT Bank Group, they belong to Access Bank Group, they belong to EcoBank Group.
Makes sense.
So ultimately, realistically, you're really only dealing with probably about 40, 50 banks.
Makes sense.
So what we've been able to do very well is work very closely with the banks and say, hey, teach us your market. We'll build the tech, you teach us your market. The beauty of tech is that because it's rules-based, you understand what I'm saying, and it's just rules. It's a perfect platform for customizing things, right? Because we're like, when you get to Zimbabwe, you do like this.
Exactly.
When you get to South Africa, do exactly like X.
Exactly.
And we don't have to give those instructions more than once. So we make less mistakes than your compliance department if you're a banking group. So we can change the rules, we can work with them, and because it's a long-term partnership, because of our business model, the banks have the security that will always be around to help them adapt to whatever rules come.
Where do you source the talent? How do you find the individuals with the right skills? And most importantly, how do you find candidates who buy into the vision that you're trying to create?
I think for us, it really boils down to having a very strong mission and then making it clear that that's what you stand for. And then oftentimes the right talent gravitates towards you. But the people that come to Flutterwave are very growth focused. They're people who really want to make a difference, and they're people who want to push boundaries and build new things. And those are the kind of people we attract at Flutterwave, and ultimately it then boils down to being able to select the best of them.
Ever since you started Bookneto to Ndela and even now with Flutterwave, you've been very sharp and smart in making sure that you get additional capital to expand on the projects that you develop.
Yeah.
Tell us how you actually do it. What is the secret sauce in your pitch that makes sure that when you approach funders, they actually are willing to open up their wallets and offer you some investment capital?
Customers are the actual capital, right? So when you really think about the kind of capital you need to start a business, a lot of people kind of gravitate towards the money man, and then they forget that these guys are not investing because they're nice people. They're investing because they really want to make a return. And the story you need to tell them is a story of how today you're set up for that. Now, for you to make a return, you need to be delivering value for somebody who's willing to pay for that. And for us, what we've done really well is being able to identify the kind of customer profile that we can go to an investor with and say, hey, we've got a signed agreement from this customer. He's on board. He's today transacting. If we can find 50 more customers like this customer, you'll be fine.
You've brought us to this dynamic place here in Yaba, which I understand is a tech hub of all things that take place here in Nigeria. Talk to us about the relevance of Yaba and the CC hub where we're present today.
Yaba is a special place for the tech community. This is our home.
So you're Silicon Valley, in other words?
Yes, this is, I think it's more special in Silicon Valley, right? Because Silicon Valley, if you've ever been there, it's like companies kind of like scattered around like a 100-mile radius. like Yaba is special just because it's not just about the tech companies, it's about the universities. So University of Lagos is just right down the road from here. There's a lot of schools in this area, primary and secondary schools, both public and private. And there's a creative community around here as well.
Obviously speaks about the ecosystem which actually helped establish yourself as an entrepreneur as well as many other entities that were formed. But I understand Andela was actually birthed here.
Yes, so this was kind of the first place where Fora, which was before Andela, one of the companies I founded before Andela was started. And the first few classes for Andela started here. Before we then went over to Ikoyi to like run larger classes. So yeah, this is a very important place for me personally as an entrepreneur and for the community.
We talk about this ecosystem which certainly contributed to your success, but one would wonder, you're walking into the CC Hub, you don't have a solid business plan, you're soliciting a lot of advice as well as support to actually run and build this entity. What kept you going?
Yeah, you know, one of the interesting experiences that I had, and a real benefit, was that I started out in tech entrepreneurship while I was in Canada, and so that gave me the experience, and you know, I was able to see other people of other races or from other places become successful in building really big companies. And so one of the things that really changed my perspective was that whenever we would talk about innovation anywhere, just Africa was not on the map. And people just wouldn't consider Africa as a factor, you know. And I remember one of my friends. When I was in the Valley doing some advisory work for a friend. He was telling me, he said, "Look, man, dude, there's no opportunity cost to doing business in Africa. I just wouldn't go there." And I was deeply hurt by it, you know. And I remember something that Mark said, which really still sticks to me today when he came. And he said, "I am here because the future is going to be built here," right? And for me, you know, that's really what keeps me going. Everyone's counting Africa out, and so that for me is a challenge. It's really, is there a chance that we could be part of building a generation of technology entrepreneurs that basically produce the greatest leapfrog the world has ever seen, and basically produce Wakanda, right, out of nothing. For me, even with my ventures, you know, in the early days, everybody thought we were crazy and that we couldn't get $100 million outcomes out of the companies that we built, particularly in Andela. But you should have seen some of the press, even from here in the early days. It was crazy. But one thing that I've learned from that success and from many others now and even into the future is really the fact that it's okay to be counted. It's okay to be the guy that everybody doesn't believe can do stuff.
Yeah. But that's difficult because it starts with the mindset, right? So you actually need to program your mindset to be able to deal with the negativity.
Yeah, but if you assume the negativity, then it's, you know, it's like, you know, I don't need any programming. You know, typically
so you're just always
assume,
an optimist?
I mean, it's easy to be optimistic when nobody thinks you're up to anything, right? Like, it's when there's pressure to achieve that then optimism is difficult.
Yeah.
But I think, like, you know, most people don't take you seriously. I remember we popped up on the finance scene. Everyone's like, "Who's this dude? He's never been a banker, never been in payments, never, you know, isn't a banker's son, isn't the central bank governor's best friend. Like, how on earth is he going to be able to succeed in the payment space?" And then 1 year later, we're doing volumes of $1 billion, $2 billion, right?
You're young, you're under the age of 30, you've been featured in multiple publications regarding the level of success that you've attained. Does that pressure ever get to you, given that all eyes are actually now focused on you and the level of success that you've managed to achieve? Does it ever get too much? Do you feel the pressure?
There's pressure. There's no denying there's pressure. There's pressure to do a lot of things, but I think one of the things that has really helped me is I like to believe I do stuff for the right reasons, and not because other people are doing it. And also, I keep a very, very strong close circle that I've had for the last 10 years. I call it my safe space. So I just keep that close circle of people in everything I do, and like, you know, damn the rest of the world.
And that's important, not only for your own mindset, but of course making sure that you protect yourself from a lot of the negativity in the world.
Yeah.
But naturally, you obviously speak and encounter with a lot of entrepreneurs across the continent, and even here in the CC Hub, I'm sure you serve as an inspiration to many up-and-coming entrepreneurs. What's your message to them, especially for young tech entrepreneurs who actually think it can't be done?
There are many messages. there are many messages for them, but I think the biggest one is, if you want to be a leader who's going to be part of building the future of the continent, right? There are three questions you have to ask yourself, and they should guide every decision you make. The first question is, what matters most to you, right? And really for me, it's, how can we prove all these naysayers wrong around the world and prove that Africans have the ability to build the future here? The second question is, what are you building that lasts, right? So, if you're going to be in something, you got to build something and leave it for other people. And then the final question is, what will you make possible by the things that you build today, right? And for me, it's really that possibility gets you through all this grunt work, right? When we started Andela, four people in the room, one person just in the corner over there, and then later 4 people in the room, and then later 18 people in some small office down the road here, and then 21 people in a rented apartment somewhere here, and it grew, and now it's 500, 800 people around Africa, right? And it's because of the impact that Andela has had in educating people. And then you think about Flutterwave and all the many innovations it's made possible in the financial space since it came out with open APIs and so on and so forth. And those are the things that really keep us going, seeing that impact. So those are the 3 questions that I ask everybody to ask themselves, right? And to use to guide their life. Number 1, what matters most to you? Number 2, what are you building that lasts? And number 3, what will you make possible by the things that you build today?
Do you regard yourself as being successful?
The way I think about it, success is a journey, right? So you never really become successful. And at some point in my life, success meant, look, you got to get funding, or build a successful business. At this point in my life, success means something completely different, right? And I'm sure, as my life continues to change, success will mean something different at every point. So I think I am on a journey of success. I'm doing my best to stay on that path. It's very challenging, and it requires a lot of sacrifice.
What keeps fueling that hunger to want to maintain that road and destination to success?
What you discover is that a lot of people just don't think the continent has what it takes to build the future. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's, if you really look at the demographics, right, over the next 18 years, more than half of the world's working population is going to come from Africa. If you take a look at the variety of talent on the continent, you take a look at our track record in leapfrogging when it comes to mobile, when it comes to even banking services, right? What you find is Africa always comes from the back. Mm. Africa is always the one that's going to surprise everybody. And for me, what keeps me going is proving a lot of people wrong again, right? By making it possible to build an Africa that leads in the future. Yeah. Right? Because it should, right? It has the population to do so. It has the talent to do so. It has the lack of rigid structure to do so.
But what are the key principles that you live by in order to make sure that you continue winning the right way, given the initiatives that you've set out for yourself?
It's really the same things across all the businesses. The first really is, be authentic, and do things because of who you are, not because of what other people expect. Yeah. And the second thing is obviously share value with other people. Like, in Nigeria we say chop alone, die alone. Right?
Chop alone, die alone.
Yes, chop alone, die alone. Right?
So if you keep everything to yourself.
Yeah,
I'm getting there.
Exactly. So for me, it's kind of a principle of what I do. I always start with partners. I always work with people, right? And quite frankly, most importantly, you need to continually be driven by a very strong mission of what you want to do. One thing that I hold very dearly, a lot of people confuse their purpose with the platform that they have.
Yeah.
Right? And that often is what leads to sit tight. You know, you hang on to one thing until it becomes a problem.
Fantastic. You've certainly inspired many people across the continent and continue to inspire people here within your home base of Lagos. We wish you nothing but the best and continue not chopping alone. Otherwise, you'll die alone.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. Particularly. Yes.
With that said, we'd like to congratulate you and wish
Thank
you nothing
you.
but the best going forward.
Thank you.